Hello everyone. This will be a different type of video. This one is targeted specifically to those who have commented on my videos that were interested in painting their guitar, but they were a little bit lacking confidence, or they really just didn't want to take apart their guitar. So I'm going to do this in real time, so it may be boring for those who already know how to do this, but I really thought it might be important, and I really think that somebody might benefit from it and possibly gain some confidence how to take their guitar apart by watching someone else do it. Here you could take a picture of the way, how far your the spring claw screws are in. Of course, you can always adapt that and adjust it when you put it back together, but if you want to take a picture of those before you take them out, you can do that. Now I plugged my soldering iron in when I started this assembly, thinking that it would be hot enough at this point, but it wasn't. And the soldering iron, in my opinion, is the part that you need to be the most careful with. You can burn yourself, and you can obviously burn your house down if you're not careful. So what I do is I set it somewhere safe, and then also, as soon as I'm done soldering, I unplug it right away, and then I set it somewhere to cool where I won't get burned and it won't damage anything. So that's one thing you really want to be careful with, not to touch the metal part, only hold the plastic, and to set it somewhere safe while it's hot and also safe to cool down. If you wanted to save the strings, if they were new, you could actually put a capo on your neck and just leave the strings the way I have them here, right in the trem. But I will be putting new strings on, so I'm just going to cut these off. Here I'm only removing the outside screws on the pick guard. If you see the 2 screws on each side of the pickups and also the screw on the pickup selector, the 2 screws, you do not need to touch those. Just leave those alone. Okay, this is something else you could take a picture of before you take it apart, but if not, the picture, I'll put that up on the screen and explain that later. But these are the only 2 wires you need to desolder besides the ground that's on the claw in the back. These screws here on the pickups you don't need to touch, and you also don't need to touch the ones on the pickup selector. So this was completely taken apart in less than 7 minutes and everything put into a bag for safekeeping. So in this video I'm not really concentrating much about the paint, but I am showing in a quick time lapse what I'll do for the paint. This will be a distressed guitar, so even though this black paint is very cloudy and doesn't look right, I'm leaving it alone, and I'm going to use that for my black stripes. And I'll just show very quickly what I do for the paint. If you're more interested in how I spray paint my guitars, I will put a link in the end, at the end of this video, to my most detailed spray paint video. Okay, so if you forgot to take a picture of your output jack wiring, here's a little picture. What they're calling black will be your ground and white will be hot. The black or the ground will go to the back of the pot. You'll see it's soldered to the back of the pot. So that one will be your ground. And the other one that goes to the little connection on the pot in the middle, that will be your hot. And then the other wire is the ground that goes to the claw on the back. Your wires may be different in color, the same way mine are different than the picture, but the color doesn't matter. You just follow the wire back to the pot and see where it goes. when I do the soldering, I just make the wire into kind of like a little tiny hook. You don't want too much wire sticking off so that it touches other parts, but there's just a little hook. You put it in through the hole and then just melt some solder there. And you can check the connection by giving it a tug. Don't try to overdo it or overthink it, because you might end up globbing too much solder on there, or you might get too much heat and it might ruin your parts. Now I'm trying to be very careful here to get the wires so that they're out of the way of the pickguard, but I installed the pickguard very slowly, and it didn't seem to be seating properly. So you'll see in a minute that that's why I took it off again. Something seemed like it was catching, so I took it off and made sure the wires were pushed under again, and then everything fit well. So since I'm leaving off the back cover, I'll save these screws. I have a jar full of guitar specific screws and they come in handy. And also the back cover I can save and cut into different plastic covers if I need to in the future. As far as the neck, when you reattach this is another area where you can get into trouble. It's not a big deal, but if you do, but you want to make sure that it's seated flat. And I'm going to use the drill to start it, but to start the screws, but then I'll tighten them by hand. And what I mean is you want to tighten everything evenly and just make sure it's seated properly. If it's not seated properly and one side gets tightened more than the other, you might have like really high action, or because the neck will be kind of tilted. So in that case, you just need to loosen the screws and make sure it's seated properly, and then retighten them. Now, it's very common to have a screw that will feel like it's not going to tighten. And in that case, depending on the size of the hole, you can use either a toothpick or, like if it's a larger hole, like one of these pointed skewers. But you just put a little bit of glue on a toothpick and just put it in the hole and, you know, cut it flush. Now, the strings I'm going to put on off camera because there's plenty of videos on the how to put strings on guitars. Alright, so here it is all back together with strings and playable. I hope this video gave someone some confidence to take apart and paint their guitars, and the link that in the end will be for a full paint job video that hopefully will answer any questions. Thanks for watching.